who contacted you about this TV show?
I was contacted by someone at ITV wondering whether we could talk to our management or representation about appearing on a television show called Hit Me Baby One More Time. And the whole idea of Hit Me Baby One More Time is basically, there they were in the 80s and 90s, and look at them now, and it's either they look great or now they look terrible. And I think we decided to be fabulous.
You phoned me and you said, Greg, they want us to go on Saturday Night TV. And I said, Pat, I'm beyond Saturday Night TV.
Yeah.
And you said, I'm not. I said, okay then. I spoke to them. They were a very young, sort of dynamic production team, and I got a great feeling off them. I said to my friends, and I said to them, which song do you think we should do? We've got to do a contemporary song. And a friend of mine, Claire, was a big Beyonce fan. She said, what about Crazy in Love? To myself, I thought, well, it's got the same kind of verse, rhythm as Labour of Love. I was worried about the Dilla time a wee bit, but I thought, oh, that would be quite good. We spoke to our drummer, Paul, about it, and he said, oh, it's the She Lights. That's what we told him, She Lights. It's Are You My Woman, the She Lights, and he started singing the song. I'd never heard of it, so we went to the She Lights, listened to the original version. It convinced us even more to do it because it was a proper old 70s soul thing. I was still not committed to it. You were really committed to it.
Yes, you were Kurt Cobain and I was Liza Minnelli. You were working with lots of artists as well at the time. You were co-writing, you were in a proper indie space. And I still had the spangles and glitter about me, and I said, come on, let's do it. And you were hard to convince. You were not easy to convince.
I had just done a handful of gigs with the Kings of Leon.
Well, precisely.
But a friend of mine, Doogie, was managing an artist I was working with, and I said to Doogie, can you have a look at this? And Doogie, what a deal he did. I mean, I felt sorry for those little ITV producers by the end of it. But we got all the legal stuff sorted, because we hadn't been on mainstream TV and these sort of X Factor competition sort of shows. There's a lot of nightmares, Pat. I mean, basically, there's your 500 quid bugger off. I wasn't interested in all that. And the ownerships, you can't do a gig after it mentioning the TV show without them getting their cut.
Right.
There's all this back end stuff that you should really sort out, but it costs you time and money and experience to sort that out. So Doogie sorted all that out for us. So I knew that everyone would be fine. All I had to do was lose 2 stone and try and produce.
You became a great friend of Carrots, I seem to remember.
So we lost the weight, we did the tune, the production company loved the tune, and I don't know if I've told you this, but the kind of company I was keeping then, I was doing lots of indie music.
Yeah, I know. We
went on that Saturday night, the first show we did, they had all got together in front of the TV to watch me fail. And I went, all right. I only found out this afterwards, because when I came back up the road after the first TV show and we won, I met them all in the pub and they were like, you never gave us our moment, Greg. You were supposed to be rubbish and lose, but you weren't. You were good.
I mean, it was proper. It was a proper moment to draw on all your experience in the music business, because it was a live vocal. You know, it was you had to cut the song down to about 2 minutes. I seem to remember. So you had to remember the arrangement and pick your moments and the highlights and orchestrate yourself to the cameras. I loved the level. There was a choreographer. He said, "Look, you don't need to move too much. Just move as you wish. Don't try to do anything too exuberant. You know."
So after the show, we played bigger gigs. We played the ABC in Glasgow for the first time. We were given a Lifetime Achievement Award by the Music Therapy Nordorf Robbins, and we were asked to play the big celebrations at George Square for Hogmanay.
I remember thinking, do you know what? If I'm going to be in front of a big crowd, I just may as well be a larger-than-life version of myself. And I remember that gig deciding to take the shackles off and think, do you know what, just go out and enjoy being on a big stage with a big audience.
I think that's why I wanted to mention the gig, because I felt there was a change in you.
I thought this is good, and I don't need to worry about this. This is uncomplicatedly an excellent experience, and I'm going to enjoy it while I'm here. And that's been a bit of a mood state for the subsequent decades.
We had Pat 2.0.
It's 4.0 right now.
So the only thing we didn't have in place was a new album.
Yeah.
Because it's so out of the blue, all this, we hadn't really thought about doing a record.
Well.
We had demoed stuff, so we wrote quite a lot of songs. I mean, I think in total there was nearly 20 songs we wrote for this new album on the back of all this newfound success. Put a new band together.
Where did we record it?
We recorded it in Park Lane.
Park Lane, the famous old Park Lane studios, south side of Glasgow.
And the sessions were brilliant fun. I mean,
great musicians, great drummer Paul Mills. I mean, it was another injection of fresh blood and talent into the whole situation.
But the last time we'd made a record, it was a jazz record.
Yeah.
And it was quite a kind of left field, dare I say, avant-garde jazz record.
I think you dare say that, Gregory.
I had been working with indie shoegazer bands. I don't know musically where you were. I can't remember we had a conversation about what kind of record we should make. But I think both of us were aware that it couldn't be an avant-garde jazz record.
No.
So we kind of reverted to a kind of default position, which is to kind of reference our favourite old soul records, but put a twist on them.
The title of the album, Open Soul, is key to everything, just in terms of my attitude about it all, because I thought, do you know what, here we are, back being validated for the kind of pop, jazz, soul mix that we have always classically done. Let's do it almost as if we were doing it for the first time, but we'd also had 20 odd years of experience. And certainly Open Soul was a kind of, how do you open yourself up to the world and be ready for opportunities, was basically what Open Soul was about. And I felt as if we had restated our worth in the public sphere, and we could afford to just remind people of what it is that we naturally do and what the natural Hue and Cry music is. It's one of my favourite Hue and Cry records, because I just felt as if it was like this perfect mix of freshness and wisdom. So in the midst of all that, in 2007, something happened which happens to everybody. It's the death of a parent, and my dad died within that period. We've been trying to figure out what to say about it, and the thing I would want to say is that my father was an amazing musical inspiration. He wasn't a musician that could read chords and read a chart or play an instrument, but he was the most beautiful bel canto singer in the tradition of Sinatra, Bennett, Mark Monroe. And you know, I'll remember to my dying day his recommendations to me watching me on stage is mind your diction, son, mind your diction, and watch your vibrato. And I see him right now in the middle of the auditorium, proudly standing, proudly applauding, with a few notes to say at the end of the performance, which was always fine. So not only that as a singer, but he was a great jazz aficionado, and you know, that's the guy who brought jazz into the ear of my heart, you know, from listening to Oscar Peterson shows and appreciating big band music. So I miss him as an inspiration, but he's always here as an inspiration. So you know, he's not really gone in that sense. He's there with me every time I open my mouth to sing a song.
We finished Open Soul not long after. And we mentioned Dougie when we were doing the Hit Me Baby One More Time. So he approached us with a proposition.
Yeah.
As
he tends to do.
In his inimitable style. And it was a different proposition than we'd ever had before.
Yeah.
There had to be an incentive for people to get involved in the music industry because it was changing. So when Dougie sat us down, and basically what we formed was, we formed Blair Hill Media, but it was an equal partnership. We're kooky creatives, Doogie's very good at building successful companies and making them work. Blair Hill Media was born, and the three of us, I remember in that boardroom, shaking hands and embracing and saying, right, let's go. There's a 20-year term. Let's see where we are in 20 years' time.
So that we'll break through the barriers we face.
You come up with the idea of building our own social network.
I heard about this platform called Ning. So Ning, in their infinite wisdom, allowed you to assemble and build an email list from people joining up. But people have to join up for a reason. And so we gave them lots of reasons. A lot of it was your content that you started to create, and you started to create a very high level content that people could only get access to from signing up to the music club. We opened ourselves up to weekly chats, so we would talk to hundreds, scores of Hue and Cry fans, have lots of frantic typed conversations about all manner of things. We allowed people to sort of set up their own fan groups within it, and it was really I think we were, for a period of time, I think nobody was doing quite what we were doing. We realised that this was a way to reconnect with probably quite a big community of Hue and Cry fans that were out there that we could get to and that we could begin to have a conversation with.
It was so successful. It was hard work for us, but within a year there was over 5,000 members.
But it shows you how harder you have to work in a digital age to maintain an audience. And I must admit, I've enjoyed it ever since, because this is much better than the classic rock and roll moment where you're basically an adult child and you don't bother about these things, and you devote all the problems to the manager, and the manager just gives you a cushion to sit on and off you fly. This was grown up stuff. This was a grown up way to be in the music business, and I prefer it.
Halfway through the year, our business partner, Doogie, said, you ever made a Christmas album? I went, what?
Oh, what?
I went away up to the Lake of Monteith, which is the only lake in Scotland, up by is it Aberfoyle? And I just stayed in a lodge for 10 days on my own and tried to write Christmas songs. When we got together to kind of realise these ideas and sketches that I'd come back with, God, Pat, White City and Anti-Claus and all these tracks, Spinning Top.
Great. Well,
Players of Games.
Players of Games. We Free Kings.
We wrote an album.
We Free Kings. These are great tracks. I mean, We Free Kings, I think, is one of, I'm just going to say this, it's going to sound ridiculous, I think it's one of the great Christmas records. And it's just that aspect of complex coming together that Christmas is all about. Players of Games as well is about kids playing with their toys and watching the adults playing their games and thinking who's the adult, who's the child. It's actually, as a writing opportunity, both musically and lyrically, it was a challenge, but it's a challenge that we rose to. And it's one of these records where you can say you can buy any time over the next 20 years, and if you buy it at a certain time of the year, it will be relevant, we promise. So in August of 2009, we do something that's been a big part of our recent years, is we do the first Rewind Festival. And there's a lot of things to say and feel about going back to your past and going back to your past with other artists. You go out on stage in front of 25, 30,000 people and you think, this is not a time for playing small. You've got to turn it up to 13 at least. So you got, as it were, all the experience of being on a big stage with a big audience, but you kind of share the burden of it with your peers. And we've done those gigs from that point onwards ever since. And it's an elegant experience. Everybody has been through the mill. Everybody's there to have a good time, can reconnect with their audiences. And the spirit of it is just excellent, surprisingly excellent. We all know what we're doing. We're all wise and a bit battered and a bit bruised, but we're still wanting to go out and perform. An audience that's completely up for it. I don't think you need anything more in rock and roll than that.
The end of 2009, Blair Hill Media, in association with No Half Measures, puts on the first Hue and Cry Weekender at the ABC in Circuit Hall Street in Glasgow. Now, It's called History City, right?
I think the theory behind that was using that title was that we were really trying to give people a weekend. And I remember producing a brochure for people for that, which gave them a list of top 10 things to see.
That was good.
In Glasgow.
I remember that.
Restaurants or museums or scenic sites or great walks or whatever it was. But we also sort of guided them through their time in Glasgow on the weekend, and I think we played the Friday night was an acoustic night.
Just the two of us, yeah.
And then the Saturday night was the full band and a kind of day of hue and cry activities. And again, it's just a theme that keeps building. What is the secret treasure of the music business for bands that stick with it? Is that you take care of your community, and you give you a chance for the community to show love to you as much as you show love to them. And people still have come back to them ever since. But I said that the first one was such a rich experience. The encounters with the audiences are energising because people, are just so abrim with hue and cry stories, hue and cry experiences, things that the music has triggered in their lives, and you create a situation where all that can be shared. I mean, it's quite a powerful experience, and I think you have to be quite mature as an individual to be able to cope with it,
There's great video footage of us doing Mother Glasgow at that History City Weekender, and there's lots of close-ups in the audience. Oh my goodness. So I think we'll play out with that.
Yeah.